years to complete. But Nostradamus is already a practicing physician in Agen, over 270 kilometers to the west, just 4 years after he starts his education.
It seems unlikely that he finishes his course at Montpellier. I think his astrological training was something he picked up along the way.
Nostradamus' critics could have a basis for their claims that his prophecies are flawed.
Αν 9 στους 10 serial killer είναι άντρες, αυτή η μία είναι πολύ ξεχωριστή υπόθεση. Γυναίκες δολοφόνοι. Κάθε Πέμπτη, 1/4 μετά τα μεσάνυχτα.
Η ηρεμία δεν είναι πια μπλε. Η δύναμη δεν είναι πια κόκκινη. Η ευεξία δεν είναι πια πράσινη. Και η υγεία δεν είναι πια λευκή. Orange Cross. Τα νέα προγράμματα από την ING που αλλάζουν ό,τι ξέρατε για την ασφάλεια υγείας. Orange Cross. Το νέο χρώμα της υγείας. Γνωρίστε το σήμερα στην ING.
Η ανεργία, όλα αυτά που δεν είμαστε πληρωμένοι, με έχει φέρει στα δύσκολά μου και ασχολήθηκα λίγο με μαγεία. Τώρα εξαφανίζω, μεγαλώνω, μικραίνω. Λίγο με παρακολουθεί. Ναι, σε παρακολουθώ. Φαρδένω, γυρίζω μπρος πίσω ανάποδα.
Traction. Το Σάββατο στις 7 το απόγευμα.
EuroLeague Live στον Sky 100,3. Την Πέμπτη στις 10 παρατέταρτο το βράδυ, Ολυμπιακός Φενέρμπαχτσε. Και την Παρασκευή στις 10 το βράδυ, Παναθηναϊκός Μπάμπεργκ. Sky 100,3. Ζήσε την κάθε αναμέτρηση.
Δεν είναι Μίλκο, είναι Μίλκο Shake.
Το Μίλκο Shake είναι...
Πιο πλούσιο και έχει παρενέργειες. Παχύρευστο, σοκολατένιο σε 3 γεύσεις.
Okay.
Νέο Μίλκο Shake. Απολαύστε ανεύθυνα.
Για προσγειωμένη και έγκυρη ενημέρωση, έλα και εσύ τώρα στη μεγαλύτερη ενημερωτική παρέα στο Twitter, μαζί με χιλιάδες followers καθημερινά και μάθε όλα τα νέα. twitter.com/SkyGR.
Δεν θα χρεοκοπήσουμε. Το 2012 θα μπούμε σε τροχιά ανάπτυξης και το 2013 απαλλασσόμαστε από το μνημόνιο.
Τώρα ησυχάσαμε.
Sky 100,3. Εδώ τα ακούς όλα.
Και στις εκπτώσεις, μάνα στο τζάμπα είναι μόνο μία στο Τζαμπαζά. Τηλεόραση Samsung 32 inch LED Full HD σε τιμή Super Τζάμπα. Από 369 μόνο 299 ευρώ. Τρέξε τώρα. MediaMarkt. Δεν είμαι και χθεσινός.
Top Gear. Κάθε Σάββατο στις 8 παρατέταρτο το βράδυ.
To search for evidence of mistakes, experts have analyzed his prophetic work. Few of his horoscopes have survived, but the details of one that has, as transcribed in a contemporary diary, can be compared against historical fact. In the horoscope of one Antoine Suffren, written when he was young, Nostradamus says he would become bearded, brown-teethed, and bent-backed. He would quarrel with his brothers and live until 75. In reality, Antoine turns out clean-shaven, with good teeth and straight-backed, has no family squabbles, and dies at 54.
Nostradamus made a whole series of fundamental errors in that instance. This is the interesting thing. When he was specific, he could be wildly inaccurate.
However, experts think Nostradamus has a get-out clause.
Astrology in the Renaissance is believed to be a predictive science. It's a conjectural science, and therefore it can't be precise. But you leave room for free will. So astrologers are remarkably skillful in leaving enough room for maneuver and enough space for other things to happen.
Soufren's horoscope is drawn up when he is a child, leaving plenty of room for his own free will to kick in as an adult. The loophole with horoscopes may explain, even justify, the errors in prediction. The only way to get to the heart of Nostradamus's astrological skills is to examine the birth charts on which his horoscopes are based. Modern-day astrologer Paul Wade sets out to test Nostradamus's methodology, and as he explains, this is not an area for debate.
When you're drawing up a birth chart, your calculations are either correct or they're not. Prophecies, they're open to a certain amount of interpretation, conjecture perhaps, but calculations are either right or they're not.
Wade is looking at some of Nostradamus's birth charts, which are used by astrologers as the basis for a person's horoscope. The chart is a symbolic view of the heavens at the precise time and exact location at birth, a snapshot of the sky. He has drafted his own charts to compare against Nostradamus's work.
I have taken his birth data as Nostradamus had it on the chart, using largely the same conventions he would have used, pretty much from the point of view of just checking his maths.
The chart is made up of distinct elements. The first are the 12 constellations, or signs, which sit in a narrow band called the zodiac. Within this, the planets, sun and moon, travel, moving in and out of the various signs. Astrologers then subdivide the chart into 12 sections of a person's life, called houses. The chart shows the exact position of the planets within the signs and houses at the moment of a person's birth. These calculations are the basis for the astrologer's horoscope. If any were wrong, the resulting horoscope or interpretation would also be incorrect. Wade has examined two birth charts, that of Johannes Rosenberger and Prince Rudolf.
I didn't agree 100% on any of his calculations, but the majority were within a couple of degrees. Some errors, I think you'd be nitpicking to come down on a guy 500 years ago for that.
But there appears to be one mistake in the Rudolf chart, which is significant.
The moon was actually placed in the wrong sign.
Wade has calculated that the moon should have been in the sign of Cancer at the time of Rudolf's birth, whereas Nostradamus had placed it in Gemini.
The moon is one of the most important astrological features. Somebody with the moon in Gemini needs to talk, needs a social life. Someone with the moon in Cancer needs a home and family. It's a completely different interpretation. So that was a big error in terms of calculations.
Wade has also found some serious mistakes in the layout of the charts. Some of the planets and other astrological features are placed in the wrong houses.
It appears that only 2 of them were actually plotted in the correct houses. So that is pretty appalling. If you've got 8 out of the 10 chart features in the wrong house, it throws your astrological technique into serious doubt.
These inaccuracies are exactly what enrages Nostradamus's contemporaries.
If you are interpreting completely the wrong placings, then, by definition, your interpretations will be flawed.
If Nostradamus's astrological skills are unsound, the predictions in his well-known book, Les Prophéties, are therefore also called into question, because he claims in its introduction that these prophecies are drawn up through astrological exegesis or interpretation. Peter Lemessurier has painstakingly examined each prediction in this book. He has discovered damning evidence that Nostradamus produced his forecasts by plagiarizing earlier books.
There are 942 predictions in the book. We've traced about 655 of them back to earlier books. And of those, 139 are taken from a really important anthology of prophecies from the time called the Mirabilis Liber.
The Mirabilis Liber is a collection of prophecies from medieval sources published in 1522, 33 years before Nostradamus's Les Prophéties. And it appears not to be his only source.
Nostradamus drew a great deal on the past. Various characters appear in his verses: Hannibal, Nero, Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, and in his almanacs, incidentally, Pompey, Augustus Caesar, Mark Antony. They're all in there.
Le Measurer thinks these classic texts are the basis for most of Nostradamus's predictions. The prophecy connected with 9/11 is a clear example.
There were two Nostradamus verses that were commonly quoted about the Twin Towers disaster. Perhaps the main one was the 97th verse of Century 6. I have translated it as, "Latitude 45, the sky shall burn. To great new city shall the fire draw nigh. With vehemence the flames shall spread and churn, when with the Normans they conclusions try."
Le Measurer has decoded each section of the prophecy.
Well, New York City isn't on latitude 45, it's 41 and a bit. It's Naples. Naples is Neapolis in Greek, new city. And the Normans, what on earth the Normans are supposed to have to do with multicultural New York, I'm not too sure. So it's obviously a reference back to an event of 1139. And it refers to the Norman capture of Naples, when Vesuvius, right next to it. Remember, the sky shall burn, to great new city shall the fire draw nigh. Vesuvius was in eruption, and at the time, I say, the Normans were attacking the city.
His prophecies seem to be a patchwork of ideas, copying from old predictions and by recycling historical events.
Nostradamus based his prophetic work on the idea that history repeats itself. The idea being that history is made by human beings and human beings don't change. Therefore, history doesn't change. It keeps coming around again.
Our experts believe the evidence is clear.
I'm quite confident that Nostradamus has no capacity to predict the future.
I imagine Nostradamus could predict the future in much the same way as you or I could, but not much beyond that.
Yet, such is the mystique surrounding Nostradamus, that for over 4 centuries people have chosen not to question too deeply. Instead, selectively interpreting his words to fit events. However, one prediction is crystal clear, because it never happened. Despite the popular belief that he forecasts an apocalypse, Nostradamus' predictions actually continue into the 4th millennium and then simply peter out.
The only thing you can say and take some comfort from is the fact that if he could predict the future, then we're okay until about 3797.
But if the past is anything to go by, these revelations about his prophetic talents probably won't stop people wanting to believe that Nostradamus holds the key